Go ahead.
How many people played on a sports team? All right. What are some teams that you guys played on? You can scream them out.
Baseball, track,
Crew.
soccer.
All right, perfect. Well, currently my brother is being recruited to play collegiate soccer, but it may surprise you, I'm not as happy for him as you'd think. As a result of playing sports for over 10 years as an extracurricular activity, I've experienced many of the damaging effects that come with being on a team, but there are three that stand out. Many of us know parents that pressured their son or daughter in either playing an instrument, taking SAT classes, and or joining a sports team, which is partially why it has become common today to dismiss the possibility of a sports team having negative effects. Being a student athlete is detrimental to the child's growth because of sleep deprivation, the inability in completing school assignments, and the risk of injury. By not acquiring enough sleep, your body is left vulnerable. Balancing school requirements while attending team practices and games restricts an athlete to a lesser quality of sleep. According to researchers, adolescents should strive for between 9 and 10 hours of sleep each night. Research has proven that reaction time, learning, and alertness are impaired by insufficient sleep. Therefore, students with long nights and irregular sleep patterns perform poorly in school and in other aspects of life, while having a higher tendency for depression. Many students diagnosed with attention deficit disorder known as ADD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder referred to as ADHD, suffer from intensified conditions of ADD and or ADHD as a result of not attaining enough sleep. This makes it even more difficult for the student to focus on their schoolwork as their inability to focus increases. Davin, a university professor, conducted a study and explains the difficulty that student athletes face having to create time to both fulfill their academic and athletic expectations. In a study conducted in 2001, there were 125 randomly selected high schools across the U.S. According to Dr. Bukowski, 75% of these schools allowed their students to participate in athletics with a grade point average of a 1.0 and less. By schools not requiring academic excellence, students settle for submitting below average work, mirroring the administration's attitude. Schools must prioritize their students' educational success before concentrating on the success of their sports teams. Being on a sports team is a privilege, not an entitlement, which is something many student athletes tend to forget. Education is knowledge utilized forever, whereas an athletic career may come to an abrupt end due to an injury. Although an injury is likely to occur throughout a player's career, some traumas are more dangerous than others. A sports team requires many hours of playing between practices and games. An excessive amount of stress on an athlete's muscles and ligaments for many hours of competing can ultimately damage or even destroy an athlete's tissue and or cartilage. Many athletes suffer from either a sprain or a tear as a result of the stress that has been put on a specific ligament. Sprained and teared ligaments are considered more minor injuries, but do not have the same lingering effects as a concussion, a more serious injury. A concussion is when a person's head or upper body faces a collision that causes the brain to shake inside the skull. Every concussion is unique, even though there are over 3.6 million concussions each year from sports injuries alone. The severity of a concussion ranges from it being a simple bruise to causing potential death. This being the reason it has been nicknamed the invisible injury, but according to Smith, but sometimes it's not so invisible. Jerron Lewis played collegiate basketball at Southern Indiana. In the middle of a game, his feet got tangled up with another player, causing him to fall and land on his head. After being rushed to the hospital, he was pronounced dead at the age of 21. This all happened less than a year after he became a father, and that's his son. Al Lucas played in the NFL and the Arena Football League. At the beginning of a game, he went to tackle a player and suffered a serious spinal cord injury. He died on the football field at the age of 26, leaving behind his wife and young daughter, Mariah. Injuries like these are just another reason adolescents must make their own decisions instead of conforming to their parents' desires. When young kids first become involved in sports, it is likely they don't fully understand the risks and consequences that come with the sport. A student's participation on a team while completing his or her academic school requirements results in a lack of sleep, which is proven to limit or damage the psychological health of an adolescent. Do adolescents know this? The potential risks of long-term brain damage and the concerns of psychological health prove the negative effects from involvement on a sports team are detrimental to an individual's development. I cannot in good conscience imagine standing idly allowing my brother to compete on a sports team without him fully understanding the very possible and the very real consequences that exist as a result of being on a team. After thinking about the families of Jerome Lewis and Al Lucas, I would be tormented every day of my life, knowing I did nothing to warn or prevent my brother about the dangers that come with sports. To me, my brother's health is too important to jeopardize over a game. But it's your decision. Are you willing to take the risk? Are you willing to risk your brother or sister's health?